What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Divij podcast, episode 129. Man, thank you guys for rocking with us. It's been such a fun journey the past couple months. You know, we've had some awesome guests on. Honestly, this has probably been the most excited I've ever been about my own podcast, and it's because I've actually been sitting down with people that truly have had an impact on my story and my journey personally. And I think before I was really just trying to get guests that I thought would be good for clips and would be good for, viewership and whatnot. But people like Clever, Del Mac, and other sorts. I mean, those are people that have really had an impact on my journey. Clever's music has played a massive role in my, my love for hip hop and my growing up. And then Del Mac, his music and his worship was there when I needed it the most. And so, yeah, man, just super grateful for where we're at and super bullish on where we're going. And it's not about me. It's not about, the money and this and that. It's really, I just want to bring conversations to you guys that are going to be, positively impacting your lives. They're bringing education to you, bringing enlightening things that are actually going to help you guys in your day-to-day life, whether it's from a faith perspective or relationship perspective or love or whatever it may be. But this episode in particular, we're taking a break from. Actually, technically, I guess I do have a guest with me. Yeah, no, I do.
Technically, I guess.
You're definitely a guest. But you're also like
part of the team, part of the squad.
You're the squad. You're one of my best friends. Man, I want to give my boy Grant. You know what's funny, dude? I actually don't know your last name.
I have two different last names that I use. Gilmore is just my normal human last name, and then Grant Blackwell is what I go by when I do film stuff and things like that.
Yeah. So we got my boy Grant. I call him Till Death because that's what I know him by in his company.
That's another thing that people call me.
Yeah, but Grant is a very close friend. He's also the new producer of the Divij podcast. So I thought it was only right to have him on the show for you guys to meet him. And, he's playing a significant role in sort of the trajectory and momentum of the show. But he's also got a lot of cool stuff going on in his life. He's got a show called Hanging Out Forever, which we'll talk about. You've got Till Death Network, which we'll also speak about. But, yeah, man, Grant, welcome to the pod, bro.
Thanks for having me on. It's crazy to be on this side of the camera because usually I'm on the other side of the camera filming you and a guest. But yeah, like you said, I have a podcast with my girlfriend. We're actually at my at-home studio setup. That's why there's a little cat sitting in my lap because this is just what she does when we try to podcast. So
she just posts up for the vibes.
Yeah.
I feel like we're on Between Two Ferns right now because we are literally between two ferns.
We're in between two. What are those, ficuses or something?
Ficus,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Zach Galifianakis for that.
Shout out.
Yeah, but no, we're I think I really wanted to have a conversation with you, bro. Not only just as a friend, but also I wanted to pick your brain from kind of different perspectives. I think you have this show called Hanging Out Forever, which you and Asia. Shout out to Asia. Quick round of applause for her. We love her. Where you guys dissect all aspects of relationships, love, cheating, and you guys have a ton of clips that have gone viral. So I really wanted our conversation to kind of just be about honestly love. Things like boundaries, cheating, we were just talking about things like eye contact. There's so many dynamics when it comes to relationships, whether it's your friends, your family, colleagues, partners, people you're dating, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So I'd love to pick your brain and really start the conversation by understanding how does Grant approach day-to-day relationships?
How do I approach day-to-day relationships?
Yeah. So when you think about people that you meet in public, strangers, friends, family, Asia.
Yeah.
How do you come? I guess how do you come as the best Grant into those circles?
That's interesting. I've never been a very social guy. I would say I'm easy to get along with. Once we are clicked together, I'm clicked together for life with people. I have some of the same people in my life that I've had my entire life. It's not a lot of people, but it's really solid people that, I've been able to vet over time, and we just have that understanding and that comfortability. I'm just not a really outgoing guy. So I can probably if I'm first meeting somebody, I can maybe come off a little standoffish or just a little reserved. I don't give a lot to people when I first meet them.
Yeah.
And I don't have this crazy outgoing personality either. So it might not feel as comfortable for them to be oh, what's this guy about? But if I meet somebody in a setting where it's something that's really comfortable to me or something that I'm really passionate about or love. Like if I'm, doing my thing, like I'm directing something or filming something, like I feel like it's really easy for me to click with people because they can kind of understand me a little bit more and what I'm about. But yeah, I mean, everyday like relationships with people and stuff like that. I mean, I hit it off pretty good with people. I mean, like when we first met, obviously we hit it off pretty well.
Yeah, we did, for sure.
And especially like I said, when it's in a setting where it's something that I'm comfortable with and used to, like a film setting or like me working with an artist or something like that, I think I really click, and it more often than less, it's like a lifelong bond that I'm kind of creating with these people. So I like the idea of having real genuine connections with a smaller amount of people than having, things that aren't really going to be lifelong, or they're not really that deep of a connection with a bunch of different people, you know? So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I guess how I approach things, I try to, if like I meet somebody and I really like them and I really think that they're a good person, I'm like, oh yeah, I'd love to like have you in my life, so I like to think that I'm open to getting new people and having like more friends and things like that, for sure.
Yeah. That's a great approach, dude. Because I feel like, especially when you're in the entertainment industry like we are to some degree, you kind of have to maintain a certain level of relationship with a lot of different people. And especially when you're an introvert, I think, because I'm an introvert too at heart, and I feel like when you have to manage all those relationships in your business, and then you have these family relationships, you've got your friends, your spouse, your partner, that can be very overwhelming. And then I feel like where's the time for Grant, or where's the time for Divij? So I'm curious, like, given you have, your friends and your family, and I'm happy to share my side too, like, how do you prioritize? Like, are you prioritizing Grant before you're able to give to everybody else? Or do you ever feel like the other relationships in your life sort of take away from Grant? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think I've always been pretty good at prioritizing myself, sometimes to like a fault. Sometimes I think I can be selfish, in my relationship, in, friendships and things like that. I wouldn't say that I'm like the guy that goes above and beyond for the people around me. My partner, Asia, the girl that I'm with, she is like, she gives so much to people, and she's so selfless, and like, she really celebrates people and makes them feel very special.
Yeah.
So like, she's definitely a good example of somebody who just puts it all out there for people. I definitely don't do that for people, I wish I was better at it. I think if there's one person that I do give a lot of that like attention to, or prioritize, is probably her, and with my friends and things like that. Like, I make sure to like check in on my friends, and, I definitely make the effort in that way. And like, I know how important it is to have my own independence and like my own friend group, and do things with them, and, have that connection and bond with them. Yeah. I know that's important. And then with my family, I think me and my family could probably be closer. We're, me and my family have never been the type of family where we're constantly like connecting and like expressing how we feel towards one another. We were never like a very expressive family. So, that was definitely something that kind of, I think, made me who I am today, and made me probably more reserved and things like that, because I never really had those bonds with like my parents in a way. It's kind of weird. I don't know. It's kind of weird to explain, but when I was growing up, like, I didn't feel really close with my parents. I felt close with my sibling, with my sister. Yeah. Me and my sister are still really close, but with my parents, I kind of felt like they never fully understood me, because they took a very different path than I did. I took like the creative, kind of entrepreneurial path, and they're very like by the book, like 9 to 5 type of vibe.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, the parenting dynamic is a whole nother can of worms. Or
For sure.
it is not even, that's a negative connotation. I mean, we wouldn't be here without our parents, so they're very important.
Yeah.
I think for our audience too, I was just thinking about it. I think before we dive deeper into that, because I think it's super important, I'd love to go back and kind of just learn more about you and like your upbringing, if you're comfortable sharing. Like,
yeah, sure.
Like who was Grant as a kid? Because the Grant that I know now is, like, if I were to describe you, I'd say you're very kind, you're very hardworking, you know, you're passionate, you're definitely very creative, you got great pants all the time.
Yeah, you do say that every time you see me. Yeah,
you have great pants. I don't know what it is, but you got pants. But like, I don't know, I didn't get to meet the Grant like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So like, who were you back then?
I would say it was a very different Grant for sure. It's like sometimes I feel like almost disconnected from who I was as like a teenager and like in my early 20s and things like that. Like it feels like I was like a totally different person, or like it wasn't real, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I grew up like in a nice home. Like my parents, they're not like super rich or anything, but they're like, I would say like upper middle class, grew up in Tucson, Arizona, in the middle of the desert, you know? So like you get into a lot of shit out there because there's not like a lot going on. There's not too much going on. Yeah. But also Tucson was kind of a weird, Tucson always had kind of like a subculture of like music and art and things like that. Like that's where all the artistic people go in Arizona. So it was always on top of things like that, like new music and, you know, pop culture things and new art going, fashion, whatever it was. So I've always, you know, been really into music. Obviously, like I'm still into that. I was really into fashion. I was really into all these things. In like high school, you know, I started hanging out with people who were just like these crazy kids, you know, like these crazy kind of like Tucson kids. And we would definitely get into some shit, you know, like drugs, selling drugs. Like we're doing a lot of that for sure.
Yeah.
Now I don't even smoke weed. Like I'm like terrified of drugs now, but back then it was, you know, pills and weed and not really alcohol. I never really was like a big alcohol guy. Yeah. But you know, lean and like all that we would get into. Yeah.
Wow. What can we break that down? Like when did that start? Like at what age were you like starting to kind of get into the bad side of, or the dark side?
I think I've always just kind of been like a hooligan. Like when I was young too, you know, I was like getting into trouble and you know, like elementary school type shit. Like I never really followed like the rules or the guidelines. Like I never cared to like listen to my teachers or anything like that. You know, I've always kind of pushed away from that or gave pushback to that. And, you know, like when I was like 12 or something, like me and my friends would like steal a beer from like my parents' house and it'd be like the craziest thing. But we were like doing stuff like that, you know? Yeah. And just like, you know, I don't know, doing bad things around the neighborhood. We would always like ride our bikes around the neighborhood and just kind of like get into trouble and things like that. So I've always kind of been into that for whatever reason. I don't know why. I just kind of had that rebellious thing going on. And then it obviously like elevated as I got older, you know. I think like the first time I smoked weed was like probably like 8th grade or something. And I never had like a very like addictive personality. So I didn't like get obsessed with it right away. I would try it every once in a while. And, you know, I was like a skateboarder and stuff. So I was always around it and the people were always doing it around me. And then once, I think it was like sophomore year of high school, I got like really into hardcore punk. And I was like really into this. There was like this like deep like hardcore punk scene in Tucson, and they had like hardcore punk gangs, and like they would have like these shows. And I don't know if you've ever been to a punk show, but like it's you go to like a show that's at like a really small venue, and everybody's just like moshing and like punching each other. It's
Jesus
like one
Christ.
of those types of things. Yeah. So I was really into that sophomore year, and then that culture kind of blended with like hip hop culture. And that's when I got really into like hip hop. Was like sophomore year. And that's when I got really obsessed with like artists like Soulja Boy and like things like that. And
Yeah.
he was talking about like drinking lean and taking Xanax, and I was really into Gucci Mane and like Lil Wayne and like talking about sipping cough syrup and shit, you know? So like
Yeah.
I got really into that. And I think like it was like sophomore year transitioning into junior year is when I started like taking, you know, yeah,
The culture, the hip hop culture and the punk culture sort of the lyrics, it's in the lyrics. You're hearing all these things. It's very prominent in your ears. So obviously that's going to then translate into your actions, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So what did that lead to a rift between you and your parents? Cause you mentioned that you guys sort of had a little bit of a disconnect. Were they sort of like disappointed or?
No, I don't think they ever really like knew what was going on fully. You know, I think they kind of suspected it because, like I said, like me and my friends were kind of like the bad kids, like since I was in grade school, you know. So they're like, oh damn, he's kind of like going a little crazy. Like him and his friends are kind of like the kids that everybody's watching, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think they always knew that I was probably like doing something, but I was always like, I was never like a bad guy, you know, like I wasn't like a dickhead or like I wasn't mean to people for no reason, or I was never like an asshole. So they're like, oh, and I actually did pretty decent in school. So like they were like, his grades aren't slipping or anything, you know, like, but my parents also were, you know, very like career forward. Like they were very focused on their careers. So they were working long days, you know, and they both had like pretty stressful jobs. So when they would come home, they just wanted to kind of like unwind and like turn off their brains.
Yeah.
So there wasn't like a lot of connection happening there with me and them, you know, because they'd be at work all day and then they come home and there wouldn't be time to like really connect. And I compare that to my girlfriend's upbringing where her parent, like her specifically, like especially her and like her mom are like, they're like this, they're like best friends, you know, and her mom is like the best mom ever. And like is constantly checking on her, constantly being like, hey, how are you feeling? Like even from, you know, when she was a child, making sure that she was able to express herself emotionally.
Yeah.
Very early on. So my parents definitely weren't like that. They were just kind of like, yeah, just do your own thing. And I definitely found a lot of community and found myself, I think, like in my friends, you know, in my friend groups. And I was always like a girlfriend guy, you know. I always had a girlfriend or something that I would always.
None of them were as good as Asia, but yes.
No, of course not. But yeah, you know, like that's where I would find those connections, I think. But when it comes to like the drugs and stuff, I don't think my parents ever really knew what was going on. And that was always kind of weird to me. I'm like, I feel like they like have no idea like what I'm out here doing, you know? And that was always kind of strange to me. I mean, there was times where I'd talk to my dad kind of about it because my dad would like share things with me. Like he's like, would talk about his past experiences and that he's, you know, he used to do drugs with his friends and stuff like that in high school. And he would share that with me. So I would be like, okay, cool. There's kind of a connection here, you know? But yeah, I mean, I don't think they fully understood what was going on. Yeah.
Do you think it was a thing of a lack of like inquisitiveness on their part? Like, were they not asking you the right questions of like what's going on in your life? Because that's something that I've been reflecting on a lot in my life is, you know, I have beautiful parents. I mean, you know them, like they're incredible. But, you know, I was thinking about it and I was like, there was definitely a period where they weren't really like curious about what was happening in my life, what I was doing, you know, who I was with, you know, what was I doing for work? Like they didn't really have an insight into it. And I was like, maybe it's because I'm not telling them, but also, you know, a lot of times you want people around you that you love and you care about to also be curious about your life. Yeah. So do you feel like they lacked a level of curiosity in that? Was that part of it? Like, do you think
I think so. I think that was part of it. And I think that the way that they grew up, I think that their parents were probably the same way. Like their parents didn't know how to like emotionally connect and didn't know how to open the door for that type of conversation or like openness. That's definitely what it is. You know, like my grandparents are kind of the exact same way as my parents, you know? So yeah, I don't know if it's like they weren't curious or things like that. I think that they just didn't have kind of like the emotional intelligence to like start that conversation,
Yeah.
or it was maybe awkward for them or something. You know, like I think that it was probably that. But yeah, I mean, now I would say like in my older age, I'm definitely closer to them now than I was like back then. You know.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of conversations have been started by me now, though, because like I'm a much better communicator. You know, and a lot of that has come from my girlfriend, you know, because she's like helped me like become, you know, much better at expressing myself and things like that. But
Totally.
yeah, I think that there was definitely a disconnect back in the day, and there was definitely like situations that happened that I think kind of opened their eyes, though. You know, like different like the cops coming to the door at like 2 a.m. or like there was a time I had like a seizure because I didn't overdose, but I had been taking like a lot of Xanax, and then I just stopped cold turkey.
Dang.
And I had a seizure while we were on a trip together, and they were kind of like, "What the fuck?" You know, like they were like, "What just happened?" You know, and so that was like a big experience that happened where they were kind of like, I think it was like eye opening for them. They're like, what is he doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. I didn't know that story. I feel like, you know, parenting is so interesting, bro. You know, I feel like as we've gotten older, at least, especially for myself, you know, I've definitely been the one that's come to the table with my family, you know, asking more questions and being inquisitive, because I realize that I need to bring my best self to the table in order for other people to perhaps feel that way. And not everyone, you know, sometimes I feel like if you want joy at your family table, sometimes you have to be that joy that comes to the table, right?
Yeah.
And I've realized that as I've gotten older, but I've also realized that, you know, at being I'm 28, you're, you know, in your early 30s, I think, but like there's almost like a level of generational trauma that gets passed down, right? That I've noticed, at least in my family, like from my grandparents to my parents. And I want to be that generation that stops all that trauma, so that when I have my kids, they're able to, you know, be raised in literally like a perfect, pristine environment. And obviously things are going to go south in certain, you know, certain areas. I'm not perfect, and my future wife won't be perfect. But I think if we can be that generation that catches those things that were off in the way that we were brought up, then our generation, the next generation after us and the generation after that will then be better. And so that's the lens that I've now been looking at my life through. And I'm curious, you know, how you think about it. But, you know, I want to transition a little bit, because being a man, right, it's got its benefits and it's got its downfalls. Like it's got its issues, right? Like things like vulnerability, right? Like men have a hard time being vulnerable, which we can get into, but there's a level of like weight on our shoulders because we are the leaders, and that's how we're wired, right? To lead the pack and stuff. I honestly forgot exactly where I was going with that question, but I had something really good.
Men have it hard.
Do you? Yeah. So we could go there. Like,
I'm just kind of kidding though.
Do we though? Also, your cat is grabbing the table. I don't know what's going on with that. It's very cute.
She's chilling.
No, I forgot what I was going to go with that, but I guess my question is like, do you think, you know, I guess, are there things that you would change? Oh, I remember my question, and we can cut this part out. Okay. Oh, that the whole mumbling I just said.
That's fine.
My question was, I've been thinking about my life now as I've learned about my parents more, about, you know, why I'm working so hard. Like, for example, like we have businesses and we want to make money as men, and we got to go out and procure things to provide. At the end of the day, everything that we do goes to our wife, and it's going to go to our kids, right? Like everything that you and I do is, if you're married to some degree, right, it's going to go to your partner or to someone else. You can't take it with you to the grave. So I've been going through my life now thinking about generational wealth, for example. Like everything that I accumulate now is for the future, for my kids and for their kids, so that they can be set up.
For sure.
So like, you know, with that, I think also comes a level of pressure, because you have this thing on, if you're driven and you're disciplined to achieve a lot in your life. Yeah. So I guess my question for you is, you know, do you feel that pressure of like, yo, I'm a man, I need to really, really, really go hard all the time so that I can provide for the future? Or do you feel like maybe you're not as stressed out about it? That was a lot of questions at once.
No, I think
Yes.
I understand where you're going. I think that, I don't know. I mean, obviously there's a pressure like of just life in general, and just pressure of you want to be successful, and you want to work hard, and yeah, like, and all that, and you want to like take care of your wife, and if you have children. I don't think I'm the way that I'm like thinking about it, like I don't put the pressure on of like, oh, I need generational wealth, or I need wealth, and I need to like take care of my kids and things like that. Obviously, I mean, like, well, take care of my kids. Obviously, like, I want to take care of my kids and things like that.
Like, y'all got it. Y'all got it. You don't need
no,
my
like obviously I do want that.
Yeah.
But I think I'm just trying to like figure it out, like what's in front of me, because it's like there's so much going on, and with the thing about like working hard to like take care of my wife and things like that, like me and my girl, we like do so much together, like we work so much together that we're definitely building a lot together, and it feels like a partnership there, other than like me just like having to like work and take care of her. If anything, like, she's helped me a lot, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but that's kind of how she is. She's like a very hardworking, outgoing person, and she's got a very like strong personality. And I love that. I love that about her, but obviously, like, I still want to I want to take care of her. You know what I mean? Like, I want to work hard to, make enough money and be successful so I can take care of her. And if she wants to, work, or we can still like do things together, then she has the choice. I would love to get to that point, I think that's easier said than done, obviously, but I wouldn't say that I have like this immense pressure to be like, oh, I need to like make generational wealth. I think I want to make enough to take care of me, take care of my girl, take care of my kids. I want to make enough, and obviously I'm going to like I'm going to like shoot for the moon, but I wouldn't say like there's like an immense pressure that if I didn't do that, or if I didn't like make like millions of dollars, I would feel like I failed,
Yeah.
So
Totally. I like what you said, because I think a lot of our listeners are men, and I think, especially when they're entrepreneurs, and this is how I'm wired, so I'm really speaking for my journey too, is like, you might carry that weight on your shoulders of like, man, I need to accomplish a lot before I go. But I love what you said about like also like respecting and appreciating where you're at in your own journey, right?
Yeah,
and like,
it's important, because if you get too focused on, what you could or couldn't be in the future, then it's like it's hard for you to focus on what's in front of you, and I think that can, skew your choices or take you down the wrong direction, and you end up getting the complete opposite of what you thought you wanted, because you're so focused on this thing. And like, if something doesn't go right and you just like beat yourself up about it, and it's that can be detrimental to the journey, but also I don't think that you should just constantly be like, oh, I'm doing this right and I'm perfect and all these things. You shouldn't think that. There should be a good balance of like taking responsibility and also taking initiative on certain things.
Yeah. I love that. Like having gratitude for where you're at and enjoying the moment and being grateful in it, but also striving for more and trying to achieve the balance without the pressure.
There's balance.
I think that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. I think, one thing I've also realized, having now been in a relationship where I feel like it's the healthiest relationship I've ever been in terms of communication and emotional intelligence and whatnot, which I'm very grateful for.
I love that. I love when my homies are in relationships. I'm not going to lie. No, I like when my friends are in relationships. I'm not going to lie. Because, one, especially when they're in a relationship with like a really good girl who's like a really good partner for them. Yeah. In that everybody gets along, like she gets along with the friends, and, we can double date and things like that. Like, I like that, I'd rather have that than just a bunch of single friends who are out here just like wilding and looking for girls, and you know what I mean. I don't know. I rather be with people who are kind of settled down in that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel you and Asia, and for those of you guys who don't know, Asia is Grant's beautiful girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have been in a relationship for a long time, and from what I've seen and heard, it sounds like a very healthy relationship. And of course, every relationship you have your issues, but you're like,
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
But I want to pick your brain because I feel like it's rare when you're a young man to have a long-lasting relationship. Maybe my vision is skewed because I live in LA where it's just a bunch of HOES, as in the guys can be. We'll take this part out.
304s.
You know what I mean? Like, but I feel like you have established this really healthy relationship that's lasted a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, for guys that are struggling out there that maybe can't find a partner, they're like, dude, I'm going on all these dates, but it's not clicking. Like that connection, the chemistry ain't there. Like, what's some advice that you'd give them? Like, what are some good approaches to dating? And also, when you realize like, yo, this is the girl that I want to be with, how do you sort of navigate that relationship so that it lasts a long time?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing you need to understand is like, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. It's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done, even if you've like built companies or done all these things, like it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. You're going to have to prioritize somebody else. And it's really hard, but it's also very worth it when you've found somebody that you can fully be yourself, you can fully be comfortable with. You guys have, I think that this is important. Like, you guys have the same interests and you guys can bond over those things. It makes the relationship a lot more exciting. And just a person who's like down to earth and isn't jealous. Jealousy can be really bad too. Like, even if it's like they are jealous with your time, like they want you to be with them all the time, that's a huge red flag. If it's an issue, if it's an issue that you're going out and hanging out with your friends and seeing your friends and having your own life outside of the relationship, if that's a problem with them, then that should be like the biggest red flag. They should want you to have friends. They should like encourage your friendships. Asia is a huge cheerleader to me and all my friends. She even is like, hey, how's this person doing? Like, you should check in on them. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, even she's conscious about those types of things. And she just really knows the importance of me having my own life outside of the relationship. So that's important. It's important to obviously like get along with your person. You have to like your person that you're with, you have to like who they are as a person, trust them as who they are as a person. And you have to give everything that you want, you have to give them the same loyalty that you want. You have to give them the same, trust, and the work has to be equal, into the relationship. And I think that could be hard because I think that women are very like efficient, like way more efficient than men in general.
For sure.
And so you have to try your best to like match that, you really do. It's a lot. It's a lot, but you have to make sure that you not always putting them first, but you have to, there are situations where you probably do have to put them first, like where you either have to, I don't know, get some work done or something. And then you're like, you know what? Like, we haven't like had some time together to bond, or, there are going to be those times where you have to put them first, like over everything, if you want it to stay healthy, the relationship. I'm not saying that but if they're constantly getting in the way of things and getting in the way of your work and like things that you need to have done, then that's also not good, so there's a balance. You have to have a good balance there. What else? I'm trying to think of like other things. You have to take initiative on things. You have to be responsible. That's definitely like issues that I've had in my relationship, not taking initiative, not being fully responsible for things. Like I feel like I have like a creative brain. So I'm just like, I'm just like, hey, like it's all good, you know what I mean? Like I'm just chilling, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just creative, and sometimes you need to like really kind of push yourself to be more like organized and efficient. But yeah, I'm trying to think what else. Cause yeah, me and Asia, and you have to have a friendship too within your relationship.
For sure.
You guys have to be friends. And the thing with me and my girl is like, I feel like I can see her every day and I don't get sick of her. Like, I don't know how or why, but I can hang out with her every day and just have a good time with her. And it doesn't feel like, oh my God, like I need some space or anything like I never have that feeling with her. I just really enjoy her presence. You know, I just really enjoy her around. And it's because we were the first 2 years we knew each other, we were friends. We became really close friends. And then we started dating. So we already had that foundation of friendship there. And, you know, we can bond over work. We can bond over our favorite TV shows. We can bond over music. We bond over like all of these different things. So I'm just like, this person's great. You know, like I love being around this person and talking to this person. It's, you know, it's great. And I mean, there's hard times too. You know, there's times where we argue and we fight and, you know, we think like we're on the last, you know, leg of things. Like we've gotten to the edge plenty of times.
Yeah.
You know, we've crossed the edge. So it's like, it's to be expected that that's going to happen. And you don't want to date somebody that you never fight with. You don't want to do that. You want to date somebody who has their own opinions and stands on their opinions, you know, and who's not just like passive and is just kind of like, yeah, sure. That's fine. You know, oh, we can go to this restaurant. That's fine. Oh, we can do this. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Why do you see that as being an issue?
Because those little things are going to just be swept under the rug with that person if they're passive in that way and they don't want to like face the conflict of it.
And then one day they explode.
One day they fucking murder you in your sleep.
Oh my gosh.
Or
like Jody Arias, they stab you in the bathtub for 40 times.
I mean, you know, like it blows up and or they cheat or something like that. You know what I mean? They start doing things under the rug and they start doing things behind your back other than being in front of you and being like, hey, I didn't like it when you did this, or hey, like I don't appreciate this, you know? You want somebody who's going to have opinions and is going to like challenge you in that way. Yeah. Yeah.
Dang. Yeah. You spat a lot of facts, bro. I feel like relationships need to be an addition to your already positive life.
I mean, it has to be something that is like a positive thing in your life that's going to, what's the word?
Make just everything else better.
Yeah. Yeah. Advance your life. I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's super important. Do you think to maintain a long-term healthy relationship, you need to schedule your date nights and your sex nights?
No, I don't think you should schedule it.
Okay.
No, I think that it should be kind of spontaneous. And I think that if there's one thing I know that women love, you know, and guys like this too, but women love like surprises, you know?
Yeah.
So if everything's scheduled out, like they're going to know everything that's coming. So you kind of have to surprise them and, you know, hey, like here's some flowers, you know, just for no reason, just because I, you know, thought of you and I wanted to get you some flowers, or hey, like you want to do this tomorrow night, you know, like kind of spur of the moment things, you know, it goes a long way. Yeah. Women really love that.
You can't be too predictable.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't be too predictable and can't be too scheduled, because then it just feels like, you know, you guys are two kind of like coworkers working together and you guys are on a schedule, you know?
Yeah.
I think you definitely need to kind of spice things up a bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's super important. Mm-hmm. I think so we just talked about like all these great things and parts of a relationship and how they can be healthy. Yeah. I think, you know, the one thing that always held me back was the long-term commitment to one person when, you know, there's so many options out there. Mm-hmm. And I think as I found God, I realized that is the biggest distraction ever. Like, because you're being led by your lust. You're not being led by love, and God is love, right? So I think my question for you is really about lust and about commitment. Mm-hmm. And is that something that you've struggled with yourself, like lust and being able to not be committed to one person for eternity and forever?
I've never been I've never cheated on a partner before.
Let's go.
I've never cheated on a girl before. So I mean that's never really been my vibe. I've usually been pretty committed to the person, but I definitely there's been girls that I've dated and they probably liked me a lot more and I just wasn't feeling it with them, and I was just kind of like, nah, I'm not feeling it. I've definitely been in and they would probably think that I'm an asshole in that sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean I'm pretty committed to my people in general. You know what I mean? I ride for my people and my girl, and if I really have that connection with you, I'm not gonna fuck you over, you know?
Yeah.
So especially in that way, I could never do that to somebody that I truly love, you know?
Yeah.
That would be so heartbreaking. And yeah, but I mean it's I see girls and I'm like, oh damn, she's fine. You know what I mean? That I think that's healthy, you know what I mean? I think it's okay to still think that people are attractive, but I'm not gonna lust over them or even push it in any type of way. I'm not gonna follow them on Instagram or even just kind of play with that, you know, because that's even playing with fire too. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna build any type of emotional connection to somebody, you know, even if it doesn't get physical. I think that you're playing with fire if you're gonna do something like that, you know.
Yeah.
So I definitely stay away from that. I don't, you know, I don't really have temptation to do that, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'll see somebody and be like, oh damn, she's fine. You know what I mean? But you
keep it moving after that.
Yeah, but then you keep it moving. You know what I mean? You don't have to be let me see what she's about. You know what I mean? You don't do all that. It's just doing too much. But yeah, I think everybody has that, and I think it's normal and healthy. You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That if you're seeing someone, you're oh, they're attractive, and you keep it moving, it's that's a sign that you're chemically functioning.
Yeah.
But also,
if you're able to express that and be yeah, I see people who are good looking and stuff, but I'm not tempted. You know what I mean? I think that's healthy too. Because if I was sitting here and being no, I don't see any other girl, or no,
I'm asexual.
Yeah, except for my girl. Yeah. If you're just lying to yourself, that's sketchier to me than kind of admitting being yeah, I see good looking people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. So the gospel says something about, and I can't remember the exact quote, but basically you shouldn't put your eyes where you don't want to go. And so it's if you have a partner and you have this committed relationship and a person that you love and you're building a foundation with them and building a family and all these things, why would you ever put your eyes on someone else and try and follow that? Yeah. But obviously if you're in public and your eyes see something, you're oh yeah, he's cute, she's cute, you know, you keep it going. Dude, I want to do a part 2 where we specifically talk about God and faith, because I think you and I may have some differences, and I would love to have a open conversation. But I also think we would probably agree on a lot of that stuff too.
Oh yeah, that too. We've had conversations off camera and stuff like that about similar things.
Yeah, but let's definitely do a part 2. I do got a mob, but bro, thank you for coming on. My G. Yeah, we're definitely gonna do a part 2. I know this is a really short episode, but make sure you guys stay tuned for that part 2 with Grant coming soon. Make sure you guys go follow him. Where can they find you if they don't follow you already?
Blackwell, BLACCWEL is my personal page. Till Death Network is my production page. So yeah, and then I'm just gonna be working with my guy here, doing the podcast stuff and visuals and everything. So
let's go.
I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Really good guests coming up too. I'll keep you guys posted on that. We're actually headed to a different state in a couple weeks to go film. But yeah, make sure you guys go follow Grant. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Divij episode 129, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Let's go.
Peace.